big country, I'm calling you out. All right, guys, late video coming at you. We are going to talk about some wiring. We got Matt, the small block Ford Prophet. He is in the house doing some amazing wiring, showing some love to the black sheep. I think this is finally going to be her, like, her comeback story. Been fighting a lot of issues. Oh, let's show them the switch panel. Let's just start the video off with straight fire. Straight fire switch panel. We're going for redundancy. Simplicity.
That's pretty much what we could get.
All right. So. Matt's going to talk to you guys. This video is going to be a quick rundown on the wiring. How in depth are you about to get?
Not super in depth. We'll keep it quick and dirty.
Get your light so you can show them in the darkness.
Oh, yeah, it's going to die.
Just like us.
The old harness was kind of a combination of the Holley harness and some custom stuff, and had a relay board and a whole bunch of other stuff. So we just ripped all that out.
All of it.
We were going to try to go to a race, started looking at it, started to find some stuff, and it was just one of those things that we didn't want to go out and have another failure. So now we're just going through and doing a whole entire harness.
Custom harness.
Custom harness. So we reused a few things out of this harness, the crank sensor harness and the wideband harness, but that's pretty much it. Everything else is, brand new. We're running the MSD 600. So did a new harness from the MSD 600 to the Holley, so it doesn't have the connectors anymore. New chassis harness, new trans harness, new engine harness. Everything's Tesla wire, brake hem, DR25 heat shrink over the loom, SCL, ATUM heat shrink on the connections. It's like a adhesive line heat shrink. So we did service loops on everything, strain relief. Did some new pass-throughs, bulkhead deals before the wire just ran straight through the sheet metal. So now we have a bulkhead for the power and ground. Before the battery ground went to a lug on the chassis, usually you always want to go straight to the engine. I try to go as close to the starter as I can because the starter is going to draw the most load. So if you're grounding here, then your ground's got to go all the way through there to ground. So I like to run my battery grounds straight to the engine, straight to the starter location. We're going to do another engine ground up here to the chassis, and then we'll do another ground from the battery back here to the chassis. But the main thing is you want to run all the way to the engine. We're going to do the Holley power directly to the battery.
It's a must.
Bypass the on this one we're running a modern.
Turn your light on, bud.
Yep, modern racing. Solid state disconnect. So like in the rear, it's not going to have like a mechanical switch. It's going to have like a e-stop button. So you flip that, and we're going to put another one on the interior of the car. So we can just leave that one active, and then John can come back here and he can turn the car on, battery power on and off from the interior of the car. It's all digital. It's no mechanical switches or levers or anything. The thing's rated to like 500 amps, so it's good. You won't have any issues. But any of the Holley setups, you want to run your main power straight to the battery. Don't run it to your disconnect, because the Holley memory is a volatile RAM storage. So sometimes if you have your Holley on and you flip your battery disconnect, you can wipe the memory of the Holley. Sometimes it'll revert back to the last tune. It'll do all kinds of weird stuff. So you want to make sure that your main power from your Holley, not like your switch power, but your actual main power, the large like thing that goes to the DEVIN connector, goes straight to the battery, bypasses the...
I think it says on it from Holley.
It does. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, disconnect, that's all the same. But that's the reason, because if you shut the battery disconnect off, it can cause some issues. You don't want to run into that. So we did that. Redid the wiring for the shifter solenoids. Did some stuff on the steering column. Like I said, this is kind of like a quick and dirty. We're not trying to get super in depth on the wiring, and
Well, let's just show them because I think it looks really good. I mean, this is.
Yeah, I mean this right now is just kind of like we're just kind of throwing it in there, but all this will run straight through here. We're gonna mount these two right here. I built this kind of like small harness. It's got a DT 2-pin connector that'll connect that.
Got a bunch of stuff from Low Dollar Motorsports.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff from Low Dollar, sensors and everything. Here's the chassis harness, just kind of going through, pinning out, figuring out, and then I'll start doing all the branches and everything. We'll go just all over the chassis, shock travel stuff, the VPS, all over. Before it had a starter solenoid here, and then it's also got one on the starter, so we're going to remove this one and just run the one on the starter. I'm a huge fan of just trying to remove all the failure points. So if you got two starter solenoids, there's one starter solenoid that can fail, and that's actually what happened to us in at Streetcar Takeover. So we're going to remove that, just kind of go and do some reliability stuff. You see new injector harness, plugs in the back intake. We're going to switch this over from this weather pack connector to a 3-pin DTM connector. I added some stuff. We're going to do, I'm just going to blank this off and put some heat shrink over it because it doesn't have an IET, but I wanted to add it in the harness in case we want to run one day. Same thing with the coolant temp sensor. We're going to run it as like a cylinder head temp. So I always want to do that, especially on a harness like this. The Holley split loom, you can add stuff, remove stuff. Something like this, once you put it together and it's sealed, most of it's going to be weather tight, and you're not going to be able to add anything. So you really need to make sure that when you're doing your harness, you plan it out, you don't miss anything, because you put all this together and you're like, man, I really want to add engine back pressure sensor, and then you can't on a harness like this, which that's what we did. We got some of the fuel pressure sensor stuff over here. Light died. So back pressure sensor is going to mount right here. We'll probably weld a bung on it right here, come down with a hard line straight to the canister. You know where the canister and all that is?
It's somewhere over there.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. I always run a canister because if you run it straight to the line, your engine back pressure readings will, every exhaust pulse, it can kind of mess with a little bit. So if you have some type of canister, it will dampen it. Some people put the coil loops in there, but a canister will really improve your engine back pressure reading. So that's going to help us with figuring out if our turbo, what we're at on our engine back pressure, because before we were just guessing. We were going, if we got 50 pounds of dome, we might be 50 pounds of back pressure, but that could be a lot more, a lot less. So with the engine back pressure sensor, that's going to really help us out. Like I said, new connectors. These are the EV1 connectors, and they're very robust ones. Some of the Holley ones, they're not bad, but in a motorsports application, you don't want to have an injector come off accidentally or something. So these have a very positive connection, weather tight, all this stuff. If you're changing your fuel rails and you spill methanol or anything on it, or oil, it's not going to leak down into the connector. Usually everything is labeled, but I had some issues with the.
Plus, if you're doing it for a customer, everything's labeled. They know, but
yeah, no, any kind of customer.
You're married to this thing.
Yeah, no, I'm married to it. So a lot of this stuff, it's not gonna. I made it to where the length of it, you can't really plug it up different. But like I said, usually everything will be labeled. We ran into some issues with the heat shrink label printer, and we're just like, can't wait, got to get it done. So not a big deal. But I feel like once we do this, we're not going to have any issues at all with the wiring ever. So it's going to be something that's reliable. You don't want to go out and try to crank the car and it won't crank, or go in the burnout box and it shut off. That's one of the things.
Punch the
relay board.
The switch panel.
Or actually, we really don't have any. I mean, it's going to be very bare bones. It's going to be the ignition on. You're going to be able to turn the coil or the injectors on and off, and everything else is going to be controlled through the Holley. So you have your one toggle switch to arm the boost control. Once that's armed, then it's ready to go. I mean, just a couple switches. So it's going to be very simple. Later on, we might change it and do some stuff with the headlights and tail lights and add some stuff. But this thing doesn't have to be any kind of crazy elaborate system to make it run. It's a tool.
Yeah, no, The harness itself, I mean, you guys can tell when you just kind of like look at it. There's no like crazy red, green, blue, white, orange, yellow wires sticking out anywhere.
Yeah,
everything is like it's pretty serious.
Yeah, it's like I said, the like this for the TPS connector we're going to be doing. You can see that it has a shrink boot adapter and adhesive lined heat shrink. Everything, like I said, has service loops in there. A service loop is when it comes down, you loop it at the thing. That allows for there to be some strain relief on the connector, and if you ever need to pull it out and repin it or something, you can. Definitely want to do that. I like to do that because sometimes if you just run it straight in the connector, if the connector bends, like your inside's going to be loose, but your outside, your wires are going to be very tight. So if you want to do service loops, I would definitely recommend it on a race car application, because these things vibrate. Like you guys,
you guys have no idea.
It's amazing how much stuff gets beat up under here just running it. So securing everything
looks good. Extremely good. Like 5 million out of 10, I would say. We've kind of been leaving Matt alone because this is his, forte. It's really a one-man job. Matt's kind of been doing everything start to finish, so we've been trying to leave Matt alone the best we could. Not really filming much with it. Had a great outing for the small block Ford fans out there yesterday with MK Ultra. So
where we're going? Red Springs this weekend?
If it don't rain, we're going to Red Springs, Thunder Valley.
Maybe Sunday if it does rain.
Maybe Sunday if it does rain. Hey, we're gonna go somewhere. So
we're gonna do it. So
this looks absolutely awesome. What else you got left to wrap up? Really, just a couple odds and things.
Yeah, we're gonna do the interior harness and the running the wires and getting your wire length and kind of pinning it. That's the majority of the time, and then start when you figure out your branches. So all I'll do is I'll take Kapton tape and I'll run it, and if I have a branch, I'll tape it there and then branch it again. And then once you start doing that, it really starts coming together. And then once you put the loom on, or the heat shrink on there, if you're not using loom, after that it's connectors. It goes pretty quick. So I think by probably tomorrow, midday, evening, we're going to be able to crank this thing up, test everything, run it. We're going to convert it. Right now it's on HOLLEY V5. We're going to go to V6 because we're going to do some stuff with the like 3-step rev limiter, a few other things. So we're gonna
the last outing, old girl was gonna be tough to beat.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and that's what sucks. It always seems like when you got the car to beat, that's whenever you got an issue. So had some people come by today, pick up some QA1s.
Yeah, private jet going over Team QA1. So QA1s are taking over. People are seeing that it's proven.
Oh yeah, I mean
you last night, this thing, going down in the heat of the day when no one else would get down. I mean, they're serious. So.
Yep, definitely. Good to have. It's nice. It's another tool in the toolbox, I guess you can call it. So.
All right. Well, it is almost probably 1.
Yeah, 1:30.
Matt, my hands are kind of dirty. Matt actually had me working.
Yeah, been working on the Apple.
Yeah. I've been over there all by myself.
You want to show them what we're doing to the Apple?
Oh, we should. We got the converter over here. We just did a stator change. So, if anyone's in the market for a big boy converter, you make some serious power, hit me up. We got a Cameron's converter for sale. We're switching over pretty much everything. The entire program is switching over to the Hughes converters. Matt, we'll talk on it for a second about just the quality, because we opened this thing up, we went through it, made a stator change. This is the stator that was in it before. No prep stator. We're going over to a radial style, something tighter. It's going to have way less slip up top. Dealing with the guys over at Hughes Performance was absolutely painless. I literally messaged Pete on Facebook and I was like, hey, I need a stator. This was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday. I said, hey, I need a stator. Going from the no prep setup, going to put this car in a radial car. It's heavy. I'll steal all glass. This is the setup. He's like, all right, not a problem. I'm like, don't be afraid to overnight it. 11 o'clock the next day, have the stator, have additional pads, have hardware, have O-rings. Unbelievable service. That right there, along with the amazing product, I don't know if there's any converter company out there. Hughes Performance is killing the game right there. So
yeah, you can tell it's the rear cover. I'm really impressed by the way it's machined. It has the removable pads here, so if you some of these, especially the 6-bolt, if you guys have ever done them, getting washers in here is a pain in the ass. Like, you will drop them, getting them in there, like holding 2 or 3 washers together. So with these, you know, you got a bunch of different pads. You can run it without washers. You can just figure out what your spacing needs to be, and you can just get the pads that length. They got little Phillips head screws. They unbolt. You can change them out. These the hub that goes in the crankshaft pilot, it's removable. You can adjust it. They have different length ones. So if like on the Sheep, it barely goes into the converter hub. So
it's quite frightening.
Yeah, it's so close that it's like 20 thousandths. Like, it just barely centers it. So with something like this, we're going to be able to just run a deeper hub. So
he sent those also.
Yeah, so we got those. It's really good. I'm really impressed with the quality of the machine work. It's, you know, it's a great converter. There's really, I can't see anything that I would change on the machining. It's you know, they took a lot of weight out of the back. The way the cover fits on there is good. When we took it apart,
oh god,
it came right apart. It's got little the thing I like the Pro Torque doesn't have areas where you can get in there to pull the cover apart, and this has areas every other on this pad right here to where you can get a screwdriver in there and pop the cover off. Inside, like where the stator support hub goes, the machining in there, like some of the other ones we've seen, that's been pretty rough. This one is like butter smooth going in there. Everything looked like it's welded great. Just, it's a good converter, like taking it apart. So really excited to see how the stator works in the Bad Apple. Try to get the converter charge pressure under control. So we're gonna toss this thing in here and go. So all right, well, we're gonna call it a night. Matt's been literally wiring all day. I worked a little bit on the Bad Apple. I did successfully smoke a second Boston butt, so I'm like officially, my test and tune with the smoker's done. I mean, when I say like I cook the juiciest butts out there, there's Big Country, I'm calling you out. I see you out there with your smoker. You can't cook a Boston butt like I can, and that's a fact. So everyone go over to Justin Swanstrom's page and be like, hey, you know, Big Country, yeah, I hear you got a smoker, but if you want to get your ass busted, John Doc is going to outsmoke you. So yeah, I mean, and if anybody thinks that they can smoke a better pizza than us, we are pizza smoking champions. I honestly probably smoke like 3 pizzas a week. I mean, I have it down to a science. I can do them like multiple different degrees. I can set how long I want to like cook it for, and I just know by the degrees how long it's going to take. Like, we threw it on there a little early today. We got a little busy, turned it down a little bit, like pow. Right as soon as my stomach's like, damn, I'm a little hungry, I'm like, you know what, that thing's probably done. I mean, we're just like next level smoking right here. Yeah, if you have a smoker and you've never smoked a frozen pizza on it, or you go tomorrow and buy a frozen pizza, it'll a $5 pizza will taste like it's a $50 pizza. Yeah, I mean, restaurant. I've literally cooked them at like $4.50. I cooked them at like $2.75. Like I'm literally super smoke. I mean, smoked an apple pie today. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think I am like the smoke master, if that's a thing. I mean, we do rolling burnouts. We smoke butts. We smoke pizzas. What else do you guys want from us? I don't know what else they could want. We've been in the winner circle. We've been in the winner circle. We've had spectacular mechanical failures. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm good with the brisket yet, but that's next on the list. If I 3 or 4 tries with the butt, and like we're perfect. So I think like maybe 1 or 2 more briskets I'll mess up. Expensive though to mess up. Yeah, I know, but like this video, and I'll start messing up briskets until I get it ironed out. And then when you guys see me at the track, like, you know, take the smoker with me, come by and be like, hey man, you got any of that, you know, badass barbecue? And I'll be like, hey, $10, I'll make you a plate, because I'm not going to smoke 1 butt. I'm going to smoke like 10 butts. So I'm not saying that I'm going to be a vendor there, because I don't have all my, like, you know, health certifications. But I mean, if you've never had a little grease or rotella with your barbecue, I don't really know what you're doing. So take it as secret ingredient. Yeah, I mean, take it or leave it. But, you know, this is the best damn shop in South Florida. Take it or leave it. So is this rant? Are we done? Well, we have a lot of stuff to do. You know, it's bad when Matt's like, hey, you need to start working on stuff. And I'm like, hey, I just kind of hold the camera and talk about it. And now I'm doing it, which is frightening. we're gonna have to find somebody else to hold the flashlight.
Who? Maybe we shouldn't try to find someone to work on stuff. We just need to find someone who's really good at holding the flashlight and not good at doing anything else. Alright, I'm ending this video.
He get to buy this round. John Doc got to buy this round. The black sheep on the property. He got to buy to the next round. 15